from the Luke's ashram. There seems to have been an energy shift around here. What, you guys start to think this stuff works now? Well, the bad news is we're going to stay with pointing at the moon because I still feel like we need to get through I need to get through that one time with your help to get the information and the reading done so we can revise it and put out the second edition, which will be the real thing. Then I'm done with it. And you guys can read it or do whatever you want to do. It's interesting that when Luke was, when we were at Sarah, I was talking to Luke one afternoon, he was going through this stuff. Up and down, up and down. I didn't know it was okay. And, he told me, that paragraph I read from Hawkins about 2 months ago, the one about effectively that there's no cause and there's no effect, and how we need to go to radical realization of the fact that there is nothing, that we have nothing to do with our very thoughts, nothing to do with our, I mean, literally, all of us, whether we know or not, nothing to do with our thoughts, nothing to do with our actions, nothing to do with blah, blah, blah. And that triggered it, that caught the spark. And, but he did also say that having read Pointing at the Moon, that gave him the foundation that made it okay for him to go up. So, because otherwise he would have no idea what was going on, he might freak. And instead he was there with that and what was going on. I have no idea what was going on. Turn loose, let go, we didn't do wrong, clean. I do know that Joel went through a lot of initiation experiences, especially in 63 and 64. And he said, quite frankly, they're not fun. And Luke has not been having fun, except for the very high moments in which he's having a lot of fun, except he's not there. So anyway, enough about that. You get the absolute stuff on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and we're going to do Living Between Two Worlds tonight. The next chapter, the 7th chapter, called Practical Mysticism, which is living is part of how to live between two worlds, which is what most of us are. I am going to move this class to 7 o'clock instead of 7:15 because half of you were here at 6:25. So we're going to start at 7 o'clock now, and meditation from 7 to 7:15, and then we'll do the class from 7:15 to 8:15, and we'll still try to hold it to an hour, and they may run over a little bit more. We'll also make it more convenient for the people who want to duck out and get to their meetings. We'll also eliminate the confusion about whether this is a 7 o'clock night or a 7:15 night. Our time will always start at 7, or the silent meditation before, or whatever happens that night. I have no control over that, obviously. And this will start at 7 with the meditation. And the doors will open on all the nights at 6:45. That's as much as I know about that. Probably more.
6:45 for Wednesday, Friday, Sunday?
Yeah. That's when the door opens. We'll open the door at 6:45. Yeah. When there were 2 or 3 people wandering in at 7, it was convenient to open it at 7 and let them come in and sit down. But, 15 or 20 people coming in, wanting to get in place before we go into the silence. So make an effort to be here by 7. It's a matter of not being here or being late. Be late. Come. You're not dismissed as here. And Robert would say, we're cooking. So, participate. So now we had, since we last had this class, 15 of us that were still here, the homework assignment was to pick either the contemplative meditation style, or self-inquiry, or the awareness exercise, and practice it for 6 weeks. And I'd like to hear some sharing for the first 15 minutes or so about anybody who did that. I know some people have been into, 2 or 3 have been into self-inquiry and having some phenomenal experiences. So it's not just happening with Luke, it's happening in the community. And I don't have to share or not, but if you'd like to share your experience, I'd like to hear it, and I want everybody to know that you can, through self-inquiry, through the awareness exercise. Self-inquiry will get you there, but it may take 3 months or 6 months, and you may find that it just seems too stupid for you to do. But I don't know anybody yet that can't do self-inquiry and do the awareness exercise. And the awareness exercise will lead you to the silence. You will be able to get into the silence, and you'll be able to get there inside of a month if you practice diligently every day. And that's about as good a guarantee you can have, is that you will be able to get into the silence in a month. So, take that for what it's worth. Who wants to share about the experience and anybody who's been practicing?
I will. I was doing which just turned out to be who.
This is self-inquiry in short form.
Yeah. And that just shut everything up. Just shut it just flat. But I started doing the awareness exercise. I don't know, I have had the most remarkable experience with that. It's just, I can't describe it, but it just goes now, like now. And then the silence behind that, and there's just this amazing stillness regardless of whatever's going on.
It is.
What's happening is that I'm starting to, it's really bizarre, my body, and it's all often depending on what's going on. I have sensations that are unpleasant when I'm in my body, but I've just been watching, and it's really remarkable because I can feel it going on, but I don't care.
Goldsmith's favorite statement is that the silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of self. Okay? We use the word silence, we use the word coin, but they're just non-technical with any meaning that they're fairly good pointer, but you're not connected to your body. I mean, you're not, you see it. You'll always see your body, but you can be in the silence and watch your body do its thing and watch the thoughts go by, but, they're truly irrelevant.
It's really weird. It's cool, and I can't believe it happened so quickly doing that. I've been doing that every day, and I was very bad. I take 5 birth control pills in one day because I forget. So every day is not my thing, but it really is.
It only takes a minute to try it. It only takes a minute to practice your awareness exercise. And there have been lots of people who have been practice, that get into the silence the first time when we're doing it in group. Now, it's a different thing to take it home and do it by yourself, but you can get into the silence very quickly. And tonight we're going to be talking about supply. That's our first topic in this thing. Supply comes from the silence. That's the connection. Everything else is nonsense. If you're not in silence, you're not connected. Who else has an experience? Either that or self-inquiry. Yeah.
Well, I'm the same way. I can't seem to get an everyday habit. And I listened to a Barbara tape, and it was usually like that long silence on the end of the tape. And some of her later tapes, they filled it in with her doing a recording of the awareness exercise and fast bread and all this. It was one of the tapes I got to the retreat, and she was describing the awareness exercise, and she said, it's about feeling. So the lady was saying, if I feel my ears, is that okay, or is that my mind? And she said, as long as you're not thinking, as long as there's not words or thoughts.
Or images.
Or images, right. She said the awareness exercise is a feeling faculty, but anything other than the feeling, you're using your mind. And one of the things she said that really helped me, gave me permission, I guess, was she said if you're sitting there and you're kind of forcing yourself, it's like it's just not coming in the words and the thoughts, and the mind is engaged. Stop, get up, walk away, and then in the middle of what you're doing, sit down and do it again. Almost, she said, you're like catching your mind off guard.
Yeah.
And I just heard that like 3 days ago, and since that, in the middle of doing dishes, I'll stop, and it just I don't know, it's made a little bit of a difference for me.
And until you're really good, always go back and start at being aware of the physical body parts. Because we start with the known, and we all know we have a left ear. So we can start with stuff we know. Okay? And then moving to eye is not so hard. If you're having any difficulty moving to eye, come back to being aware of your left knee. Always just come right back. Go back to the beginning and go back up. Like it's 30 seconds to go through the whole thing, but go back and get the first exercise to where it works every time, and then get the second one to where it works every time. We're talking a day and a half for each of these. We're not talking months. So work at it carefully and thoroughly, and after a while, you will get to the point where you can go directly to the third step and just be aware of the sound. Yeah.
I started doing the awareness exercise, like reading it like a book, and then like taking time and doing it, and then I got the tape, and so I was doing it like that. And I don't know, like I don't really can't explain it. Like I felt like I don't know. I just had to keep on going back to the body part a lot. Like I felt like whenever I got scared almost, and even listening to the tape, I don't know what it was. I don't know why. I don't know really, but I just had to keep on going back to the body part. Like I could be okay with the body part, and sometimes I get silent. But I mean, it was never like I don't think I had like every day the same exact experience. But I know the body part. And even when I felt like I was visualizing the body part, I just kind of told myself I don't need to visualize it because I just know it works, and I just know God works, and so I don't know. I did a lot of thinking with it, but it's interesting, and I think it gave me peace within my day. I don't know.
Marla says that when your thinker cranks up, you stop right there and tell your mind, no, you're a very useful tool, but you're not the one we use here. Here we use the awareness. Just, don't shut it off and don't try to stop it because that will encourage it. Just tell your mind, no, you're not the tool we're using now. We'll get back to you in 10 minutes when we need to remember something or something like that. We'll get back to you, but right now we're using the awareness tool. Your mind doesn't frequently use your ears. So.
If I can visualize the muscle in my arm, it was like I know what to do.
That's your mind. Just get quiet for a while. We'll get back to you. We're using the awareness right now. And practice that. Slowly, you're doing good. The awareness itself is one of the 40 senses, 40 faculties, okay? It is the 40 faculties, as Barbara says, the faculty of the soul. I don't like to use that word because everybody has a different misconception about what that means. But it's a Christ faculty or a transcendental consciousness faculty. But when I am aware of my left ear, I feel it. And that's because I'm wearing a body, and the only way it has of being aware of something is through the five senses, So everything that's happening up there gets translated into something down here. When I get confirmation about something, this bumps up and down, or chills run up and down like that. I get chills or goosebumps and stuff like that a lot. And of course that's nonsense. But that's how it looks when you translate that particular spiritual situation into the 3D world, into reality.
I'm glad you said that about the different stages. My experience was that I bought the tape, I used that definitely helped, but sometimes I just felt like there was too much noise, once I got better at it, to do it without the tape.
It's pretty long.
Yeah, it's long. Yeah, but I did, use it a little bit, and I found that eventually it was easier for me just to go straight to eye, that it would, when I did the other body part, sometimes my mind would wander so much, but I was able to have a little bit more, and I didn't know what that was. I thought I wasn't doing it right because I wasn't doing all of the steps, but I was able to, go to be aware of eye, and then that seemed to quiet me more than, going through the whole thing. And then I did use that, what you said about when my mind, because my mind wandered and thoughts would come up, and I tried that technique you said about trying to, let the mind know, okay, we don't need you right now, and yeah, so that was my experience. But I found it was harder just being away from not doing the classes on Sunday, not doing this, to get, found a little bit harder to get quiet and to stay, being able to get in that place. It seems easier when I'm, in this consciousness.
Did anybody work with self-inquiry? We had one share. Anybody else work with self-inquiry that wants to share about it? Yeah, I know you have. Is there anybody there that can help a lot?
Well, I did the awareness exercise here one night, and there was nothing there immediately, and there were some questions that a lot wasn't really right, There's really more to it. You're really supposed to.
Yeah, it can't be that easy.
So I started doing self-inquiry to immediately with doing self-inquiry, the question was, who's doing the self-inquiry? Who is the self doing the self-inquiry? And all of a sudden, all of the problems, all of the good and bad, was like there's self-inquiry doing. There's like a self-inquiry going on for that, and then there's who's doing the self-inquiry for that, and then jump to the observer, and it's, well, who's this observer after, it's going back and forth, so this discovering of a middle eye, that's still not it, but there's this perception that it's a closer point.
Yeah, the witness.
Yeah.
They call it, classically, they call it the witness, the one who's watching the little eye.
But it's still...
But it's not the big eye.
No, the big eye. But it doesn't matter when you're the witness. And then it kind of started turning into the awareness exercise. Like it was just stay there. The awareness exercise came back into place, and it was just like the self-inquiry is going on. Where the mind is going, it's doing the self-inquiry, and the awareness is just staying in awareness. And that's kind of what came into it.
Yeah, it's interesting to get them both together. For example, when your mind cranks up, you could ask, while you're doing the awareness exercise, when your mind cranks up, that's who's thinking that. The quickest way to set your mind up is to say, who said that? Good, thanks.
Yeah, I use the awareness exercise in my mouth. That's the place where it seemed to go. And what happened for me is that always when I've meditated, I've tried to be a receiver, very passive about it. And for some reason, sitting here, the last class, the class before last, I gave myself permission to hit the button, which I never given myself before. And so it's allowed me to take a step in that I never, much more quickly than I did.
There's a distinction there. You see, if you're only aware of the five senses in your mind, you need to be passive in your meditation. And that's what all of Orthodoxy teaches. The very good Orthodox churches teach you to be passive. Most of them teach you to do something. The best you can do with Orthodox styles of meditation is to be silent and be passive. And of course, that's what Joel reads. He uses the template of meditation to let his mind run down, and then he drops into the silence and becomes receptive. His common phrase always is, "Speak, Lord, thy servant will hear." And that's and Joel's definition of prayer is sitting without words, without thought. So you have to go there. But this is just, the thing is that we're unaware of our soul faculties.
Right.
Bill Barber said, hey, and notice we use the word, we're unaware of our soul faculties, which means we're aware of other stuff, which means we're using our aware faculty all the time, right? Because it's the same awareness that we use for everything. If you're here and looking at me, you're aware, so you're using it right now. Didn't know that it was yours that you could share. Always the same thing. Okay, keep that work, you're selling yourself short if you're not getting into the silence. And you can, how do you know if you're in, when we say be aware of I, and you have an experience, how do you know if that's I? How do you know if you're there? Yeah. What? You don't. You don't. Yes, you do. That particular one, being aware of the I and not super I, but being aware, let's go back to myself with a small s, myself with a capital S, and self, all caps, okay? So when you say be aware of I, that's myself with a capital S, the impersonal expression of consciousness that happens to think it's incarnated as a silly body right now. How do you know when you're at that, when you're aware of that, of your own impersonal individual consciousness? Because your mind will certainly say, that wasn't it. It's way too easy to get there. No, that's not it. That can't be it. How do you know?
It's not inside.
That's right.
Not at all.
It is not inside your body. Your body is inside it. Okay? Expansiveness going out, you can't find a perimeter. And you're aware of what's here, but there's no awareness of a perimeter or a boundary, and it's real clear that it's not inside the body. Okay? Now, how do you know when you're in the silence?
Sometimes I don't realize I'm in the silence until it's noisy again, and then I realize that I just was in that silence, but as soon as I think I'm aware that it's over.
When you're in the silence, you have a very deep feeling that everything's perfect. It's all right. Nothing. Specifically, I don't need to do anything. Okay? That's where that I don't need to do anything. I start. Might take it. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, you said that, so being in the now is the exact same thing.
Sure.
But then that, whatever it is, it's not measurable, everything's perfect.
If you're in the now, you're not thinking, by the way. And if you're thinking, you're not in the now, and if you're not thinking,
But if you have the thought everything's perfect, isn't that kind of bringing you out of the silence?
you don't have the thought.
Oh, you have the feeling. Okay.
You know
Right, the known.
that everything. I don't need to do anything. See, that's the central point of the healing consciousness.
I have a question. Being really present, I have that feeling now. Not all the time, but I have it. I never had it before. And it feels just fine. Everything is fine. But when I get into the space of awareness, it's so good. And it's not that it doesn't feel good when I feel very present and present to what I am. But I mean, it just really feels good. And so what's the difference?
Between being in the now and being in the silence?
Yeah, I mean, I have a sense of...
Because you're in the now, and the silence is the essence of self.
Got it.
Now, I'll tell you one other thing before we end the book. You can learn through the awareness exercise to get into the silence. But you will not be able to stay there for as long as you want until you finish your kid and script work. The reason there's kid and script work is because after 25 years of being in the silence, Barbara and her long-term students would be in the silence for a while and come out and throw a tantrum. Their husband or somebody, by now they were pretty much down to the pet people, but they were still having to They were still having emotion. They were having emotion with their pet people. That's why we do that. And well, maybe I'll do this. There's something that came up at Sarah, which was sort of fun. I gave one of the talks at Sarah because Dulcie wanted me to talk. Well, we'll just get to the book next week. It's much more fun talking about it. Barbara has a picture she draws called the 3 circles. The inner circle is the realization realization of God, okay? And they're concentric circles. The next circle around it is realization of self, and the next circle around it is realization of a relationship. Let's say relationship with God is the center circle, and relationship with yourself is the second circle, and the outside circle is the relationship with the 10,000 things, all the people in your life and such like. And the reason I say that the script and kid and pointing at the moon are the 3 pillars of this, and that's what she has to talk about, is to start at the outside end of the 3rd circle, okay? Way out there in the 10,000 things, hopelessly there, okay? And as we get more and more and begin to have some realizations, we can become aware of the fact that, of the fundamental principles of the script work. We can become aware that my experience is the acquisition of my own consciousness and things like that. As a result of pointing at the moon, as a result of the letter of truth type work, we have enough insight that we can see the surface of the script work, okay? And so we can start doing the script work. And very quickly, we run into the fact that we can't do the script work because our kid's in the way. And our kid won't let us, okay? And what we've been doing is moving across the 3rd circle to the 2nd circle. And now your kid is there and you're at the 2nd circle. So now we start doing kid work. And we work with our kid and work with our kid. And we discover that we can't stop resistance behaviors and we can't give up fantasies, and we have all these trouble with kid work. And we fight with that for a while, and we're moving towards the 1st circle. And we finally get the clue that we need some God to do the kid work. So we get driven into the 1st circle. And now we're in the 1st circle, and here's where pointing at the moon really comes in, or any letter of truth, Joel Hooks or Joel Tates or Robert, but here's where letter of truth really comes in. And because that's how we develop God consciousness. And by the way, the quickest way to expand your spiritual adult is to do the awareness exercise, be aware of the silence, and expand your awareness. Because that's what we're expanding, awareness of God, okay? So it's a shortcut. So we work in the 1st circle until we have enough God in here. And essentially, when your relationship with God is right in the sense of useful, not complete, but when your relationship with God is put in order, you now have the equipment to move back out into the 2nd circle. Okay? And so now you work with your kid. And when your relationship with your kid is put in right order, like a trust you, like the 5 steps, now you can move back out into the 3rd circle. And now you can begin to approach questions like forgiveness and something else concern. So the process is from outside of 3 to 2 to 1, working here, take that back out into 2 and take that out into 3. And the point is, you can't do circle 3 work unless circle 2 is working. And you can't do circle 2 work unless circle 1 is working. Okay? So that's what that all looks like. Side of all of this. So that's to keep doing the letter of truth. So now let's go into the book. Any questions? Got the picture? That's a pretty simple way of seeing the relationship of the 3.
Wait, do you mind if I share an experience that I had with self-inquiry not as part of this?
No, not at all. No exclusivity.
Okay, thank you. In March, I went to a retreat called the Illumination Intensive, where it's 3 days of intensive self-inquiry that you do actually in dyad style, where you're asking for 3 days straight, who am I, who am I, who am I? And during that period, I had an awareness of who am I? And I never got any of this before. Joanne and I talked about it for a long time, and I intellectually understood it, but I never feeling understood it. And through this experience, I feeling understood what we're talking about here. So if anybody wants to know more about that, I can tell you about it. It's something that you can do. And since then, I'm able to meditate. I'm able to go into the silence. I'm able to feel awareness. I'm able to feel in a much different way than I ever could before.
There was a exercise at the Rashneesh ashram that I got to participate in back in '81. And the way they did that was for 3 or 4 or 5 days, you paired off with another person. And for an hour, you sit down and I'd look into your eyes and say, tell me who you are.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they would come up with an answer. And the question would say, thank you.
Yes.
And they'd stop for a second, and then they'd look at me and say, tell me who you are. And I'd say who I thought I was at this moment. You know, I'm Lee, I'm blah, 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 blah. And they would say, thank you. This is an old Rashneesh exercise. And you do this for an hour, and then you get up and do a walking meditation for 5 minutes, and then come back and sit down and do it again. You do it for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day.
16 hours a day. And it blows your mind open completely, because what you're doing during that time is emptying out all the untruth, and then all of a sudden it comes, the truth. Whoa.
They had us do that at the Rashneesh ashram before we went in to have our personal time. Rashneesh, in case we wanted to be available to hear what was going on. And it opened me wide open, and then he cracked me like a walnut. You know, it's just amazing. So, yeah, wonderful exercise. Hard.
But
It works pretty hard on Thursday.
Yeah, there were times, it is the most difficult work I've ever done in my life. There were times in the first 2 days when my body felt as if it was turning inside out. There was so much pain. But at the end of it, and it's right here in Beaumont, not very far away from us, so it's something that we don't have to go to Rashneesh or anywhere else, it's here.
They called us the enlightenment.
Enlightenment, yeah. Great stage to work with. Yeah.
I can tell the Osho crowd.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Really good.
All right. I'm at page 93, which is chapter 7, which is practical mysticism. And I'm going to pass it right. I'll pass this book around because the light is not that bright, and this is the large print version. So let's read a paragraph and pass it on. Read the first couple of paragraphs. Remember that there's 3 clicks on that. It's got more clicks. I can see more clicks. And remember, this is a workshop. Raise hands, jump in, ask questions, say what you think. Make sure you hear it. You don't have to believe anything. I don't care whether you buy anything that's said in here, but I would like you to hear what's being said. If you don't understand what's being said, ask questions. It doesn't mean you don't believe it. It just means that you understand it. Practical
mysticism. This chapter could as well have been called Living by Grace. Calling it practical mysticism is more fun. It sort of has an oxymoron to human consciousness. Human consciousness is convinced that mysticism is completely impractical, and most Orthodox religions were. It's been said from many church pulpits with statements such as, Jesus is, take no thought for tomorrow, what you shall eat. May have worked in his day, but they're not practical today. What Jesus was talking about was living life by grace. The ones speaking from the pulpits were conditioned by human thinking.
The following will hopefully give us a glimpse of the practicality of a mystical consciousness. We will make no attempt at a thorough coverage. This book is an introduction. We will merely try to give an indication of the mystical approach to a few topics.
But where there's interest, we may come back next year and spend a period of time on any one of these topics for as long as we want to. We may start having workshops on these particular topics if we want to do that. Right now, I think we got 7 weeks now, in July and August, and we can probably get through this chapter, and then we'll take our 1 month break, and then we can get through the principles during the last quarter of the year, and we'll finish the book up this year. But we can certainly, I have no plans for next year, and I have no idea what I just said is going to happen. School's out. Yeah. Okay.
Living by grace. What is not present in the human experience except when and where it is realized. When we are experiencing the presence of what is, when it is effective in our life. When we are realizing that we are individual expressions of what is, and what is the content of our individual consciousness. And that determines the nature of what is formed as our human experiences. Our life reflects harmony and fulfillment. This is called grace. Grace and the realization of the presence of what is are identical.
Okay. Most people think grace is some separate, apart, special thing, but it's not. It's just the presence of God. And God and grace and love and all of those are synonymous. You can't be aware of God and not be in grace for that moment.
We tend to think of grace as something that can happen, but is perhaps not happening now. Maybe it will come to us sometime in the future. But when we talk from the mystical standpoint, everything is already done. What is outside of time and space. Everything in what is finished. When we talk about coming into grace, we're not talking about what is deciding to bestow grace upon us. We're talking about us achieving enough realization of the presence of what is to experience the omnipresent, eternal grace that has always been and will always be.
It's so incredibly simple that we miss it entirely. We experience what's in our consciousnesses. Nothing more, nothing less. If what is not our conscious, grace is not in our experience. We sometimes hear about the grace of the Guru. It's the same grace. The Guru is illumined, continuously aware of his or her oneness with what is. So by being in the consciousness of our Guru, we are lifted into experiencing the presence of what is. And that's called grace. Grace manifests in our life while we're in the Guru's consciousness. So grace is omnipresent and it manifests in our life. We live by grace to the extent that we are realized it. We are realized it.
Take that on.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Questions? Alright, let's do supply. That's everybody's favorite.
Supply. Supply is always a favorite topic of beginning metaphysics and mysticism students. Everyone has some reason for beginning the path, and lack seems to be a good one. The problem with supply for most people is that as humans we are conditioned to think in terms of the verb get. I need to get this. I don't get it. I get to go on vacation. I get to come back. Human consciousness is all about getting, and it's all about things. When we consider supply, we immediately think about getting things. We think about income and material things like dollars, stocks, certificates, money for dinner, or whatever we think our particular need is. Unfortunately, what is doesn't know anything about getting. It is fulfilled, and it doesn't know anything about things, dollars, stocks, certificates, money, or dinner. What is spirit. What is doesn't know anything about material. Material things are in the human mind.
Getting can't work.
It's just, I really like that line that was just said, it doesn't know anything about getting because it already is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, wow, that's a good line, Ray.
Okay.
I mean, I really heard that.
Yeah, eternally.
Yeah.
what is fulfilled. Eternally is done, completely. That's
So the concept of get can be there because it doesn't exist.
Well, there's certainly no sense trying to convince God that you need something.
Absolutely.
Because God knows that all there is God, and God is fulfilled. What's needed? Yeah.
Does the part also refer to, I mean, not just physical material things?
Sure.
Like wanting to get peace, wanting to get out of pain, wanting to get more spiritual ability, like those kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Those are
Certainly can.
Yeah.
Certainly isn't just material things.
So it's not just money or...
Certainly companionship or
Well, even that is some buddies, but I mean, just like wanting to get like...
any sense of after limitation, period. The biggest, well, not the biggest, but a big inhibitor of getting enlightened is wanting to get enlightened because it reaffirms the fact that there's an I who wants to get enlightened, and it reaffirms the fact that I'm not.
Yeah.
Just starting a couple of steps back. Okay?
Instead of looking at supply from the viewpoint of trying to get something, let's go back to mystical truth. We think of ourselves as personal senses, where we're in fact ourselves capitalized, personal individual expressions of what is. Ourselves are one with the self, facets of the diamond, and the self is completely fulfilled right now. It always has been, and it always will be. Fulfillment is true of all of what is. This includes ourselves. So the fulfillment of ourselves already is the diamond.
I'm sorry.
Fulfillment is true of all of what is. This includes ourselves. So the fulfillment of ourselves is already in existence, already a fact. The only problem is here in our personal senses of self. The only problem is here in our personal senses of self. We believe they are separate from what is, and so we're not experiencing what is fulfillment because of that belief. If we're not conscious of our oneness with what is, we're not conscious that we are fulfilled. So it's not our experience.
If you believe you're separate, you're effectively separate. And there can't be grace in your life because grace is the realization that you're not. The realization of the presence of God.
If we realize the presence of what is, we realize that as part of the one, we are fulfilled. That becomes our experience, and we say that the I is growing. The outflow of fulfillment of what is into our experience is what we call supply. It was always omnipresent, and now it is in our experience, taking whatever form it needs to take it in with us. Notice the word outflow. Usually what's true in human consciousness is the opposite of what's true in spiritual consciousness. Mystically, supply is outflow, not income. When we consider that what is the only creator, the only source, and that everything out there is an effect of creation, we see that there cannot be income from anyone or anything out there. There are no sources out there. That everything must flow from the infinite source through grace to the realization of oneness. Supply is applying the infinity of what is into our experience, through our enlightened individual consciousness. If we want more of something, we go in to the source, make contact, become aware of the infinity, and experience it as it expresses in our lives. Spiritual supply is our experience of what is fulfillment. Since we're experiencing, as a human experience, which is five senses, what is the infinitive is now formed by our individual minds in ways that are meaningful to our human experience. consistent with our material understanding. Our lives start to appear fulfilled. If our need is lunch, supply or request someone comes by and saying, hey, I've got an extra sandwich in my bag, do you want it? If our need is money, supply looks like someone offering us a job or some relative we were unaware of sending money in the mail. When we're aware of the presence of what is, the material story unfolds, however it used to, fulfilling our needs without taking anything from anyone else.
When you get it, that supply is the same for anything that you may think you need. And you don't go get money supply, and you don't go get job supply, and you don't go get relation supply, and you don't go get this. What you do is go get grace, which is what we call supply. And your mind forms grace in your experience. I love the comment about Joan of Arc when she was being inquisition, and the people there, the inquisitor, that, you mean God talks to you in French? And she said, I don't know what language he talks in. I hear him in French. Okay? So it's your mind that's forming it. So, you know, if grace requires a house for you, and your image is a house in the hills, you'll get a house in the hills. And if it's a cottage by the shore, it'll be a cottage by the shore. You're determining your supply, and your level of supply will be consistent with your own level. So,
I have a funny experience. When I first started doing self-inquiry, I had a really busy day. I had meetings all day. I was walking through the 11 steps, and I was like, gosh, I'm really hungry. I was like, well, who's hungry? I was going through this whole thing. And then there was like this plot of grass, and there was like this perfect white paper towel with a sandwich on it. Walking by it, I was like, no way, you're going to have to do better than that. I think I was like picking up dinner after I got to the hunger disappeared. But cool. Yeah.
I'm not even sure how to word this question, but since supply is whatever you feel you need.
Nope.
Okay, it's not that. How does it come in different ways? Like you might have all the love and all the work you need and and not have other things.
I hear what you're saying. I just want you to finish saying it.
And you don't have maybe the car you want or the home you want, or you have all this other stuff just keep pouring in.
Right. Because you think there's a thing you don't have, therefore you're blocking supply in that area.
Got it.
Yeah.
What if you don't really know what you want? Like, you know you need a car.
It's not what you want. Want prevents it. It's not what you want. Want prevents it. If I'm saying I want this, then I'm saying I don't have it, and I manifest don't have it. You don't have to know what you want. It's got nothing to do with what you want. You're not interested in what you want. What happens is when you're in the silence, when you're in God consciousness, when you're experiencing the grace, then your life becomes fulfilled, whatever that needs to look like. You don't get to, you don't get to determine what it looks like. There's another paragraph here. Let's hear that. If you think you want something, that was why I was waiting for her to finish her sentence, because she was saying, I'm fulfilled here and here and here, but there's areas over here where I don't have something. I said, yes, that's the problem. I don't have it, or I need it, is the block.
Or I should have it.
Mm-hmm. Double block.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you were saying like I'm gonna go back to the house idea, you don't know that you want that? Like that's
you don't know that you need
it just happens.
You don't know that the house is happening?
Yeah.
One day, 12 years ago, I'm living in my little 700 square foot cottage, a block and a half from here. And my granddaughter is 6, and she's old enough to start spending the weekend with me. And I look around and there's one room, And figured, there's no place to have my granddaughter come visit me. And I came out of my house that day and drove down here and drove up the hill, and there was a for sale sign down here. Hadn't been there before. So I don't know what I want. I certainly don't want a place like this. I can't afford a place like this, etc., etc. So I called my broker, and he said, oh, well, there's a real estate walkthrough on that thing Wednesday. I can get you into that. So I came up on Wednesday and got into it, and I walked in the door, and it said, this is your house. All you had to do is knock out the wall and put in the windows, and so I knew it was a done deal, see? And I had no idea, and I look out here and I see this view, and I see this life, and I have no, I can't live in a place like this, I live in a 700 square foot beach house. But it said, this is your house. I said, obviously why, now you see why, okay? It's also fulfilling my work, which I didn't know what it was yet, okay? I thought it was for my granddaughter to have a place to live back there. So she's been there 15 days now in the past 12 years. You're 45 or 40 of us here back, so you see what's going on there. Now that's what it's like. I didn't know that I needed a house. I didn't know that you needed a house. Certainly, and you ask me, you say, well, I don't need a house this big. All I need is a 2-bedroom house, Just one for me and granddaughter, Finally, this fall, my granddaughter's coming to live with me.
Yes.
12 years later. But that's how supply works. Okay? I have no awareness of it. The fact is, I'll say one other thing which isn't in here that I think I ought to add it. If you're out of the way, i.e. you're in transcendental consciousness, then what's happening is God is living your life. Okay? If you're not there. Okay? So now if God is living your life, which is the life it expressed itself as to live, okay? So we now have a case where God is doing what it intended to do from day one here in this body, okay? How can it possibly not provide itself with everything it needs to do that? Get it? There can't not be everything that is required for you to do what it is you're here to do. Now, when you're seeing things missing, it's because you're either not in the transcendental consciousness or you don't know what you're here to do. And you have your own plan about what's here to do, and if I've been wanting to do something else, it never would have worked. But I didn't know how to do it. Okay? Yeah.
It's like, God, the more content I am with everything I have, the more shit that shows up. Always works like that.
Sure. Let's go on. Let's finish this chapter and then we'll go on. Let's go on. Get the next paragraph. So I want to get this in here. We're talking about it.
The correct practice of supply is to practice realizing the presence of grace and letting it show forth however it will. If we start outlining what we want it to look like, we're back in humanly, trying to manifest dollars, automobiles, or whatever we think we need. When we are in human consciousness, looking for material things, rather than in the realization of grace, our mind outpictures our belief that we need a car, not a car. In fact, we're maintaining a lack of car or lunch or whatever it is that we think we lack, since our beliefs are what are outpicturing. The minute we're looking for something material, we're blocking it. The minute we're looking to get something, we're blocking it. But to the extent that we're realizing who we really are and no thoughts of how things should look materially, our lives manifest fulfillment. And it will fulfill us specifically. We individually interpret fulfillment in mind. We'll find a place to live that meets our standard of living, whatever that might be. Our needs will be met, not what is this idea of our needs. What is this doesn't know what needs are. It is we who are fulfilled, so it will look like what is appropriate for it to look like in our cases.
Get that?
Is this the individual expression of God consciousness? Is that what you're saying? Saying what is doesn't know what our needs are.
Right.
That,
What's the question?
I was saying is the fulfillment discerned by this individual expression of God consciousness?
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah, well, it's actually, even more than that, it's determined by mind. determined by the mind that the individual expression has, that's in this, the fulfillment that we experience while we're in bodies is a material experience. But the fact is that, so it's determined by our mind,
We're going to be right here. We're going to be our experience.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm getting this awareness of how I've been blocking everything.
Good. Get you $10 worth tonight. Stop that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
This goes right along with the whole, if you look at those little Joel cards that you have, the first four, all basically say, resolve everything within.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as you have, and what's the line about? As soon as you think you have any problems, sit down right where you are.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's yours.
As soon as you think you have any problem, or as soon as you can't find happiness, joy, and freeness, sit down right there, go inside, and figure out how it is that you're blocking your happiness, joy, and freedom. They're the only possible block.
I came here for 9 years, looking for this. It's a real tricky thing, and I don't think it matters, by the way. But looking for the spiritual fix for my brokenness, with regards to health in particular. So I was spiritual enough to get supply, and in that area. And I never sat down and decided to drop all concerns. It dropped me.
And if you haven't dropped all concern, you're not in consciousness. In all transcendental consciousness, there is no concern. That's the way you know you're there.
All I know is the concern about that drop, but it wasn't me that did it.
That was the gift.
And
Great.
and that that I came here for a long time to get enough spiritual enough to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it really matters.
What were you?
The whole thing about supply shifted, but it didn't matter what I thought about it.
But
here's
the fact that here in those 9 years you will listen to a million Joel.
Oh man, you
hear it through consciousness and what you were hearing it and getting what are the truth in Joel's consciousness and what are the truth in Joel's consciousness and you were in listen. That's where you have that experience.
It didn't matter what I thought during that time.
No. It doesn't matter ever what you think.
My experience with violence was, like, it just never being enough. And most of the and no matter what it was, my experience was always that it always is enough. I'm sitting right here, and my experience has always been that it's good enough. Mm-hmm. And that realization that I've been listening to a lot of Joseph and working with, grace is my sufficiency in all things. Mm-hmm. And that's been going through my head. Like, whenever my head starts to run with the numbers in my bank account, it's just really don't add up, But if I would run them through my head one more time, it might be a different number. And it's almost like hypnotizing myself back into the truth of just grace. Remember, because that throws me right back into my meditation from the morning, like remembering where I am.
It's the depth of your conditioning and the fact that there are 6 billion people around you radiating at you, the fact that brings you back into the hypnosis.
It's going
really hard at first to stay in transcendental consciousness and not get brought back. Because you have to be present all the time. You have to have some part of you that's always here now.
That staying brings me back. And that's like, it's my tool.
Yeah, that's our flashcard this week, by the way. Our flashcard this week is thy grace or your grace or grace is my sufficiency in all things. That's supply. Let's read the last. Let's read this paragraph, and then I want to go 10 minutes over so we can read the next few paragraphs on hiding because that's part of this. Who's next? Brooks.
The basic rule of spiritual supply is if we want more of something in our life, we need to express more of it. It's easier to see when we talk about non-material things like love. If we want to experience more love in our lives, we can simply love more. We never feel another's love for us anyway. We may observe behaviors that we've been conditioned to believe indicate love, but we cannot experience anyone's love for us. The only love we ever feel is love, the love that we're expressing for someone or something, which in reality is what is love, flowing out through us. That's the point of supply. It's what is love flowing out through us. If we want more love in our lives, we love more. If we want more friendship in our lives, we become more friendly. And what we call material things are no different because material things are actually the manifestation in mind of spiritual things. If we want more stuff in our lives, we let more stuff flow out through us. We clean out our closets and get to the goodwill.
I have a first discovery response to Susan said something that I wrote in every big book I've ever had. I just loved it. And she said, give what you need. And it was just this short little phrase that just was like...
That's the way to start it. That's the hot primer.
Yeah.
Give what you need. You need love, love somebody. Find pity. I mean, love something. Love. If you need love, find anything that you love and love it. And you're starting. You're starting to flow. Please.
Tithing. Tithing is one way to start a supply path flow. It's like joining a pump. Tithing is traditionally thought of as the 10% of our income. But what's important is to begin with a percentage we're comfortable with. 5% or less is fine. The percentage will probably increase as we continue because it feels good.
Lack is the outpicturing of the belief that we lack. Abundance is the outpicturing of the belief that we have abundance. If we can start expressing the belief that we have, we turn our experience around. We begin tithing by picking an amount we're comfortable with and giving it to an appropriate recipient. Often we tithe to the place that is uplifting and fulfilling us spiritually, to any impersonal organization that we feel like support is fine.
Impersonal. And that doesn't benefit you directly.
Our attitude towards tithing...
Or your immediate family. You can't tithe to your kids' college. Until they're done at college.
Our attitude towards tithing is important. If we're focused on getting the other 90%, we're focused on our lack, getting. And lack will continue. If we're tithing to demonstrate what we have, that we can give, that will begin to express as our experience. Tithing is the first bill we pay each month. We pay it out as the first fruits of the grace we are experiencing because we have.
And that's the whole secret. Tithe because I have and I can. It's got nothing to do with whether they need. That's irrelevant. Because I have and I can. That's the kind of love. All right, we'll stop there. Thank you for doing that much. Free questions, whatever we can run. Yeah, please.
Okay, the drop off concerns, and Barbara takes to saying, I think it was Joel that told her, drop all concerns, or if it was a realization she had, I don't know, but she said that's ridiculous. She said, how can you drop all concern, how can my students drop all concern for the things that they're concerned about? And then, of course, she didn't answer that question. And so I'm still kind of hanging on.
For 25 years. For 25 years, she didn't answer that.
Okay, so can you tell what, I mean, that's the thing, it's like drop all concerns. She's like, that, all these routes, all these methods, she's like, they all lead to that. So how do you drop concern for something you're so concerned with? The things that interrupt the silence are those unexpressed.
Drop all concern is step number 5. Master the first 4 steps. and you will have dropped all concern.
For the self-inquiry.
Your concern doesn't influence the outcome.
Yeah, but that's an intellectual factor. Really good for your kids.
Yeah.
But drop all concern is step 5. It happens right after forgiveness. Forgiveness happens right after 100% responsibility, and right after you integrate your kids so they're good. So you're moving in. You're still in circle 3, moving in towards circle 2. Hard work. Drop all concern is not something you can practice. There's no techniques for it. It's something that happens. It's a state of consciousness. Not an activity. If you don't drop all concern drops. Yeah, something you want to bring up. Go back now.
Well, I just thought of something else relating in trying to figure out on a Barbara tape I heard that trying to figure out how it relates to all this. Mm-hmm. She said on the end of one of her tapes when she was talking about, I think, script tape, that she said, she brought up the fact that if you're not fiscally responsible, that nobody who's trying to practice a spiritual path can claim that. And she even referred people, that to look at that and before they move forward and maybe even go to a 12-step program like that as anonymous. And I'm trying to see how that fits into supply. Is it because if you're not, if you're coming from a place of lack or something? I'm just trying to see how that fits in. If she stressed that.
Barbara had a lot of opinions about how to operate your human life, and way more than necessary, I think.
Yeah, it seems kind of a little bit of a mental thing.
She also told her kids how they needed to make their beds. So she had opinions on how beds were made. So Barbara had a lot of when Barbara is teaching from behind that desk, she's speaking truth. But she has a lot. And it's funny because she also talks about, when she says, I don't agree with your old politics. And it's the same thing. I don't agree with a lot of practical things that Barbara says that doesn't apply to me at all. And that's your own thing.
So you don't think that's necessary to have fiscal responsibility, or is that not really related to spiritual consciousness?
If you want your life to work, you do have to have fiscal responsibility, but that's all 3D.
Okay.
That's got nothing to do with grace. That's got to do with having responsibility so that your life can work. Joel also says, Joel says specifically, and this is a spiritual truth, he says, don't go out there spending your money in order to get, don't go out there spending it thinking, well, God will supply. God will provide it. You may not have the consciousness yet. Okay?
I've heard you say that.
So it's really easy to say, well, God will supply, but God won't supply unless you're in God's consciousness. And when you're spending that money, you're not in God's consciousness. You're getting things. We're back to acquiring things, getting.
Yes, when you talk about tithing, and you said that's a good college thing, but tithing is giving back to your family.
No.
It's not at all.
Impersonal.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
This is the other people. It's all very nice to give money to get your kids to college, but what about the family down on the corner of the street who don't have money to go to college?
Well, it's only personal.
If you wanted to give money to your kids' college, but you wanted to give it to an anonymous scholarship fund, that would be perfect. If you really liked your school and you saw what it was doing for it, and you wanted to make a donation every month to a scholarship fund, and you did it all, tithing is anonymous by it, and you wanted to make that donation anonymously, that would be a wonderful tithe. Or any other organization that makes you feel good, that you feel good about. Something that covers from what you consider to be a platform of high consciousness. Yes.
When you're talking about drop all concern, is it when you're sometimes you can drop it, but then sometimes it's there. Say you're in a that moment, something happens, say you're worried about a family member or something, and at that point in conversation, you're concerned, And then when you get off the phone or you get away from that and you're by yourself and you can just drop it and be okay. Like, it's just, but not necessarily like 24/7 you can drop it. Like, not.
Yes.
Yeah. But,
Not 24/7 yet. But I'm sure Joel was continuously in a state of drop-off concern. Luke obviously is in a state of drop-off concern. There's nothing to be concerned about. And Luke is very clear, as I am, he's very clear that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and it's all a function of one thing, and all this labels and stuff we attach to it is nonsense. Any concern you have is the result of a precisionality you have taken about how things should be. Yes? You hear that? Any concern I have is the result of a position I have taken about how things should be. We've had an acorn for years about the heaviest burden for a person to bear is knowing how things ought to be. Causes nothing but concern and resentment and expectation. And whole Pandora's box of unpleasant things.
When you said this was, it should be anonymous.
I didn't say supposed to.
Oh, when you said that hiding.
I know it's not a tiger.
If it's not, okay. That's true. So does that mean that you don't send a check? That you
just send a check.
Yeah. You just don't get credit for it. You don't ask for recognition.
Your name engraved on that.
Right. Or published in the newspaper, that kind of thing.
Joel mentions that too. In the fact, the person who's working there, who is receiving your check and putting in, is also tithing their time perhaps to the place. So that's not very certain. Write a check. Money order or something like that. Or cash a check just to keep it anonymity. But you do get they'll recognize you. There's somebody there who will say, "Oh, that's Cynthia. Oh, wait, let go." So if there's somebody there who will recognize who you are, rather than take the check and drop it into the deposit, you need to do it. I had one case where I wanted to tithe to something, and I knew they knew who I was, and so I just got a cashier's check every month. And dropped it there, and I had no idea where that came from, which is the point.
Yeah, because I did something like that where it was a person and got a thank you for it, and it felt a little like I tried to be as anonymous as possible, but I didn't think about being connected with my check. And
it's anonymous to send a personal check to somebody who doesn't know you and who is not going to put your name in. I mean, if the person gets your personal check and stops the deposit only on it and drops it in the deposit, that's anonymous. But if they know you, it's no longer anonymous. Yeah.
So this is the first night I've heard that concept that we can't feel other people's love. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that, because that.
You'll have to take it inside and realize it. The fact is, you can't feel my love. I may look like I love you. You may think I love you. You may think I'm supposed to love you. You may think blah, 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 but you have no idea whether I love you or not. You can't feel my love.
Robert talks about that on Wednesday. It's called All Is Well. He talked about it this morning. He talked specifically about relationships and about marriage. And he talked about how we are conditioned to believe that if you say certain words to me and you behave in a certain way, that it means a certain thing, and then I automatically have this emotion evoked in me based on my conditioning and what my perceptions of blah, 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 blah.
Emotion.
And it's all bullshit. All conditioning.
Barbara says point blank that when your child says, "I love you, Mommy," your child means, "I need you to love me, Mommy." Child has no capacity or concept or idea of what love is. So now, if I am truly loving, without saying anything, it may evoke a response of love in you, because my consciousness is loving, okay? The fact that you're in my consciousness, if my consciousness is loving, may evoke a loving response in you. But you're feeling your love. You might conclude, "Oh, he must be loving me for me to have this weird response." But you're feeling your love. You don't feel any of my feelings. You don't feel my anger, my hate, my rage. It's just, we all have this ludicrous concept of what love is.
So, we don't feel other people's anger? That's our script stuff?
Sure. I mean, you can see that they're acting angry.
Yes.
But you don't have that going on inside of you and all the stuff going on. You're not angry.
Okay.
Not unless it's reading the script.
Yeah, it may trigger your anger.
Yeah.
Or just their unconsciousness, their anger consciousness may trigger your anger consciousness. You know, when we walk into a room full of angry people, our whole being gets defensive. You know, we're about to get angry because that's the quickest way to empower ourselves, so to speak. Okay, I think that's pretty complete. Let's get quiet for a couple minutes. Grace is my sufficiency in all things. Okay, thanks for coming. I love you all. See you next week.